With us tonight in the PTV studio to clarify some issues being linked to the government's anti-illegal drugs campaign is attorney John Castriciones, Under Secretary for Operations of the Department of Interior and Local Government. Good evening, USec John, and welcome to PTV News.
Good evening, Richmond, and good evening, Charles.
Sir, for the understanding of the ordinary person, what exactly is an extrajudicial killing or an EJK?
Well, there are a lot of definitions for extrajudicial killing, but apparently the most common definition would be a state-sponsored killing, most especially of people who have the so-called opposite political affiliations. And apparently, this has been equated with the so-called unjust elimination of political opponents, which are, of course, state-sponsored.
I see. Sir, why is EJK being connected to the PNP's anti-illegal drugs campaign and by some sectors to President Duterte? Is there actually any substantial basis for this, sir?
Well, apparently, Richmond, there are a lot of, politicians and disgruntled people who have been set aside because of the anti-illegal drug campaign of the President, who has this so-called political will and real self-determination to really put an end to the so-called program, that they wanted to more or less pursue their old ways and practices. And for that matter, they have been criticizing the policy of the government, specifically this Oplan Tokhang. And they want to attribute all killings to the so-called anti-illegal drug campaign of the President. But apparently, I don't think that this so-called propaganda is gaining ground, because a lot of people are quite satisfied with the anti-illegal drug campaign of the President. As a matter of fact, the President is still enjoying a high-time 80% popularity amongst our people.
I see. What could be the basis of the human rights groups and even the International Criminal Court for claiming EJK to be state-sponsored, sir?
Well, apparently, it would seem that it's more of a political reason. And, if there is really state-sponsored killing of people here in the Philippines right now, then probably would see a lot of people protesting in the streets, because you know how Filipinos are. We're not easily swayed just because people are powerful, or those who are in power would be able to dictate on us, and we would cower in fear. No, Filipinos are not like that. We easily fight back if there's really injustice being committed against us. So what's happening right now is that since they cannot amass so much support locally, or domestically, I mean, so they bring their issues abroad in the international arena, wherein those people there are not aware of what's really happening in ground zero. And that is the reason why there have been a lot of news being spread. But of course, it appears that a lot of people do not really believe that these things are really happening in our country.
I see. Divisiveness is very apparent in the social media, sir, especially on the issue of EJK based on the figures hyped by media, which is now placed at 7,000 plus killings. So what's actually the real score, sir, and how many of the killings are actually related to the anti-illegal drugs campaign of the government?
Well, the problem is a lot of the so-called, people who are critics of the President are saying that the killings have resulted into more or less 7,000, 8,000, or 9,000, but these are not very accurate. The report of the Philippine National Police is that there are more or less around 1,400 people who have been killed in the process of the so-called police operations. And apparently, I would tend to believe the version of the police, considering that they are the persons who are really involved in the so-called drug operations. And how would we believe now this account of the so-called foreign media or some reporters who I believe do not have the means or the so-called organization that would give them or inform them about the details of the so-called killings nationwide. And so I would tend to believe, and it would be more credible to believe the President of the Republic of the Philippines, who has the so-called power and the means to obtain all this information from the different departments of the government.
I see. How do you qualify the other killings being related to the campaign, sir? And what could be the possible explanation for other cases of EJKs?
Well, there have been a lot of cases wherein they would say that some of those so-called members of the drug syndicates are killing their own people just to silence them. And some are attributing this killing to what we call the vigilantes, who feel that they have a God-given duty to eliminate the evils of society. and some which are, of course, results of petty crimes or the so-called index crimes are not really related to drugs. And I think it would be most unfair to attribute all these killings to the so-called anti-illegal drug campaign of the president.
Yes, sir. It's funny, sir, that there's so much noise about EJKs when the government is even building a lot of rehab centers, sir.
That is very true. As a matter of fact, during the past administration, we only have around, if I'm not mistaken, around 37 drug rehabilitation centers nationwide. And I think 17 of which are actually government-owned, while the rest are privately owned. And you know, if you are going to total the number of accommodations for the so-called 17 government-owned rehabilitation centers, it can only accommodate as much as 10,000 people, while the rest are privately owned, and you have to spend at least 40,000 pesos a month for each drug dependent, and that would be a maximum, or rather a minimum number of 6 months for staying inside the rehabilitation center. So that would cost around 240,000 pesos. That's the reason why the government, under the Duterte administration, saw to it that we should build more rehabilitation centers nationwide so that we would be able to accommodate the growing numbers of drug surrenderers. Because as of now, as of the latest count, I think there are around 1,400,000, if I'm not mistaken, drug surrenderers nationwide.
And how can we help all these people, sir, if we don't have a lot of rehabilitation centers? Do you think maybe we can tap the international communities for this?
There's now an out-of-the-box solution that is being given by the government, or what we call a paradigm shift, wherein we are now utilizing the so-called community-based approach, wherein they are not placed under confinement, but they have to undergo some sort of programs that are being initiated by the different departments of the government, and particularly the local government units nationwide.
I see. Any last words to our viewers, sir?
Sorry?
Any last words to our viewers, sir?
Well, I would like to inform our countrymen that we should really trust the government, and we should cooperate with the government, because right now we are very fortunate for having a president who has a political will, an iron will to put to a stop this so-called illegal drugs problem that we have. For the longest time, we have suffered a lot from the so-called ill effects of these illegal drugs. So many lives have been lost in the past. So many innocent people have been victimized. A lot of families have been broken, so to speak, because of these so-called illegal drugs. The fate of the youth have been placed under threat. And that is the reason why I think it is high time that we should really end this, lest we would like to become a narco-politics, rather a country which are governed by narco-politicians. As a matter of fact, right now, nationwide, out of 42,300 barangays, there are around 34% which are affected by drugs, and in Metro Manila alone, there are 92% barangays that are affected by drugs. That is how humongous the problem with illegal drugs, and it is high time that we should put a stop to it, and we should cooperate with the president so that we will be having a country that is really peaceful, and we will be able to track a progressive future that will enhance the so-called development of our country.
I see. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence this evening, USec John Castriciones.
Richmond, thank you. Charms, thank you so much.